Okay, I have 8 o'clock on February 8th, 2023. We'll call to order the Chenango County IDA regular meeting. We'll roll call ourselves in.
Blanchard here.
Raymond here.
Ryan here.
Zeno here.
Given.
Corey here. Burton here. Going to waive the reading of the IDA mission statement, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of January 18th.
So moved.
Okay, need a second?
Given seconds.
Any discussion, omissions, or corrections? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond, aye.
Ryan, I.
Zeno, I.
Given.
Corey, aye. Burton, aye. Financial report of January 31st, 2023. Kathy Jo, you're up.
Okay, with the checking and money market, there's over 800,000 in banks. Accounts payable is a little high with the contract with Commerce invoice for January. And the net activity is 135,000, and that's with the accounts receivable billings for all the pilot payments for 2023.
Did we ever, so speaking of the billings for High Bridge, Barb, you stopped me the other day and asked me about when we're supposed to bill them. Is it annual or is it September? Did we ever get an answer to that?
No, I didn't. Chris has not gotten back to me. I will try and reach out to him again and see. He was gonna get with his people there at Highbridge and look over the contract, so.
Can you take
I
that as
will.
action then, and we'll send him a note, another
Yep, I
email
will
today,
get with
we'll take that.
So that
He's
is
hard to get a
something,
hold of.
that is something that might change. If it's the anniversary date, I'll take it as January, give it to the anniversary date.
So what we're talking about is High Bridge. We billed High Bridge the 105,000. They were under the assumption, and they may be 100% correct, we don't know, that they get billed on the anniversary date of the pilot, not the first of the year. So pulling out all the paperwork, Barb asked her to show her where that was, asked Chris to show her where that was. If that's the case, we'll pull that out of accounts payable until September. So then we'll either get an hour in September, one or the other, you know. So, okay.
Just a question on the everything bagel. I see they're behind on the one payment. It shows here under age receivables.
30 day.
So it's 31 to 60 days. You get 2163.
Because I just got the invoice to them.
Oh, did you?
So, but I had to bill it for December because it was last year's utilities. So that's why it's showing past due, but
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
It's a lot better to hear why.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on, Kathy Jo, anything else?
nope, that's it unless there's any other questions.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to approve the financials of January 31.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Yes, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond, aye.
Ryan, I.
Zeno, I.
Given it.
Corey, aye. Burton, aye. Okay. Bills and invoices, Kathy Jo talked about those a little bit in here now. We got the commerce contract, includes all the cottage posted, contracted services and travel, and of course, the Protel for NICEAG, where,
Kathy Jo had sent them an email. I have reached out to them. I have not heard. I will follow up on that.
Three of the bills are final reads. There's still one more account we need a final read on.
okay, so there's an end game. Good.
Right, yeah.
Need a motion to approve the bills and invoices?
So moved. Second.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond, aye.
Ryan, I.
Zeno, I.
Given it.
Corey, Burton, aye. Pilots.
In your packets is what Matt Wells from Bonjour King sent us regarding the pilot. I was noticing that they do in here on Schedule A, it is for 30 years, so that's something that I'm assuming we're gonna want to not do these solar projects 30 years anymore, correct? So that's something we're gonna have to discuss with Matt Wells and, you know, do some more negotiating with him.
Yeah, 20-year max.
So I will,
Have the time up with the attorneys and let them know that that's what we have to do.
yeah, I
That's
did,
what we had Steve here for last month.
right, it's Steve, yeah, so, would you like me to set up to have Matt maybe do a presentation, you know, or get with us next month?
I think
I know
really
it's
the
our reorg.
communications between them now, right, the attorney and the project,
Right,
so.
do you want me to just let him know that we are only gonna do 20-year max?
Correct.
And I will send them, I'll send them our new UTEP, as long as we approve the UTEP today. I can send that to Matt Wells as well, because that outlines, you know, what we're looking to do with these solar projects.
Yeah, we'll send that to our attorneys and we'll tell them that this is our policy and that if somebody wants to deviate from that, we can come in front of the board, justify why and
Right,
how come and what's the additional benefit for the county that we don't see during the normal UTEP procedure, I guess. So
Right.
unless the board tells us to do something else, that's what we'll do.
By the way, that presentation last week was, last month was very, very educational for me. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I think it was beneficial to all of us. I hope, at the very least.
Yeah.
Anything else on that at this point, Ben?
No, but we'll just take that as an
just-
action and we'll reach
Yeah.
out, to our attorneys, we'll notify them of our UTEP after we get this completed and we'll ask them to talk to their attorneys and tell them that this is what we can live with unless something else happens. We'll give you guys an update next month.
Sounds good.
Will that also include the per megawatt
Say that again.
payment? There's a per megawatt.
right,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So are
We'll
we
make
actually
sure that all-
negotiating specifically in this case? We're saying 20 specifically and I think it was.
That was the outline for the maximum pilot based upon what we're gonna try to do, Mike, is say, where does this fit in with that UTEP? How many megawatts per, kilowatt, or how many dollars per kilowatt, how much, what's the size of the field? And that will dictate how long of a program it can be. So I think that's what we'll go back to these guys with, right?
Yeah,
Right,
so,
so,
and
I'm
yeah, I'm just
with that,
wondering how the
understand.
process works. I mean, you're gonna assign the duration of this project. And is this based on spec sheets that we receive from them or are there over? Do you have engineers come in other words, do we have an outside opinion telling us how long these projects last and what the duration of these solar voltaic cells are?
Well, that's what, and I thought like that's what Steve did last month. So I'm gonna go, he came in last month and said, this is the maximum that these solar projects should be.
I get the max, right?
And so, but then he said, okay, from there, it's how much, how big is it? And then what's the dollars per kilowatt hour that we can negotiate from them? And that will give us the extent. So I thought, again, I'm not trying to, maybe I misunderstood him. So I don't know. I want to do exactly what you're describing, figure out, okay, what is the duration of these fields? And I think he was speculating that the most it could be was 20 years. That's what he thought the life of those were. And then the length of the pilot, though, was more dependent upon the income that it generated during that time. Maybe I misunderstood it, but before we do any of this, I promise you, we're going to walk through Steve and make sure that it fits within the parameters that he and Bill Craig would want. Because I'm not sure, to be honest with you, what the exact, for all the reasons you're asking me, how long will this one last? What is the dollars that they're giving us? I'm going to make sure, like, until I got a few of these under my belt, that I've got people that have negotiated ones that we feel good about, and that's what he was telling us last month. I'll make sure that if this doesn't fit in that framework, we come back here and have the project owners talk about it, because
I would run that by the attorney that we have, because just to see what, because you don't want somebody coming back and say, well, you only charged them $20 for the kilowatt, megawatt, whatever. And now you're charging us 40. Now, how can you justify that? So, whatever we come up with, what your rate's gonna be, it should go through the attorney to make sure we get justification on why it's different than what we've done in the past.
Yeah, Matt Wells from Bond Schumann and King is gonna be, he'll be in on all of this.
What's interesting is
Everything.
you may want to go back to your baseline, like you're describing, and maybe there is no technical reason why we did that. Maybe it was just a random number, and that might be an answer.
You're 100% correct.
I mean, I don't state the obvious, but.
Right.
I think you're probably right.
I'm
man.
just
I'd
glad to not- no,
I'd rather pick the number.
Yeah.
Well, the problem, I can remember when we were talking about it, they were checking with the other counties who've already done these pilots, and we're saying, see how much they charge and stuff, and that's my understanding where some of this came from, and what we charged was already based on what other counties were doing.
So because of the newness of it, the infancy of solar in these types of projects, we were on some level taking their word as far as what was profitable to them that they could pay and still make a profit. And then, kind of verifying that against other counties and whatnot. We had some bids that came in that were real low. I think one of them wanted to pay like $1,100 a kilowatt hour or megawatt. And no way, we just charged a different project more than that. But now that there's education behind it, we've been educated a little more. It's obvious that we need to be up in the $4,000 range, $3,500 to $4,000 on these projects. So I think you're 100% correct in the fact that we were taking the project companies, dollars of what they said they could pay, and then basing that information, taking it and doing some research with other projects and counties. Again, a lot of times we call a county and they're like, well, we don't know either. We're new at this too, and here's what we charged. And as long as it was in line, we went with it.
I think that's the same way that 30 years, on the pilots.
Same thing in the beginning, yeah. But now, as we continue to get educated about it, and they're more and more prevalent, and they're all over the place now, there's kind of become, I don't want to say a standard, but there's become some guidance in parameters that wasn't there before.
And I think the way I look at it, and you guys can advise me differently, but we've got the basic parameters in place, and I think Steve has a healthy skepticism of the long-term benefits of these solar projects. And so I'm gonna we'll get the framework of the negotiations, because we know, but I'm gonna run these by you and Bill Craig, because when I took over this job, that's the first thing those guys called me up on was the pilot. So I think they have a much better understanding, far more experience than we do. We're just trying to get some guidance from them and then come back to you guys with their recommendations. So unless you guys think that, otherwise to your point, I don't know.
That's perfectly fine with me, and I'm not trying to hammer anything that's been done in the past, but we should exercise due diligence. And just so you know, there are laws there's two municipalities in Chenango County, maybe three if I'm right, but two municipalities will actually hire an engineer to evaluate these things. So we're kind of watching them, and then we may be doing the same at Smyrna, but it's important to have technical backup instead of just.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm smart enough to know that I don't have any of that expertise, and I will get all the help I can get before I ask you guys to give me authorization to sign something like this. So,
Thanks.
One more question before we leave this. Somewhere in all of these documents, it mentioned that the outfit needed to follow our local labor utilization policy. Do we have such a policy?
I don't know that.
A local labor
That's what it was called in the document, yeah.
could be just tossing this out, prevailing wage. It's a government, if there's government involved with it, I don't know.
So it could
Minimum
relate-
wage?
It could relate to the end of,
Well, it's what,
minority businesses and all that, because there's a percentage you have to have if there's monies involved from the state or federal.
well, what it's pushing toward is hiring local people. But it talks about a policy that we're supposed to have, and it's not a policy I'm aware of.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know if the county has anything like that or not. I know that, like you said, you know how we did it with, when you did any federal monies or state monies, you had to meet those guidelines and percentages, even with the idea of local, but there is, but I've never heard of one that the county itself has. And I know we've never.
I've never run across it in planning, Jeff.
So it would be wise to find it. Is that what
Well,
you're
at least
saying?
that's-
We either need to create it or take that line out of it.
Yeah, if you want to go through with the attorney again. see what they
We'll
say
talk,
about it.
we'll ask the attorneys about that as
Yeah.
well, Bart.
Yeah, and I can ask George Sennick, you know, if he
Yeah, he
knows
can check with
anything.
Jack.
I'll be seeing him tonight at the Guilford meeting, so.
It's just
I'll
an
ask him
assumption,
about
but
it.
I'm guessing it's a blanket statement for like prevailing wage.
Right, I think, yeah, I don't know if that's what it is.
Yeah, but if we have a government policy locally, then that should become part of our policy, so make sure that it's followed.
Good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll ask the attorneys, right, we'll do that.
The only thing I didn't see in here either, and I may have missed it, is the decommission side of things. There's plenty of talk about insurance and whatnot, but there is no,
What's interesting is, this company was originally Delaware River LLC, now it's changed to New York Smyrna LLC, so it just kind of kicks in a little more skepticism.
Yeah.
Another thing of the local laws that we're looking at and reviewing is a bond for the life of this project and a decommissioning bond, so.
A decommission bond, right, a decommission bond?
Absolutely, yeah, they would be, that would have to be done and taken right up front. This local law is really good, could share it with you sometime, but that's one of them. Decommissioning is very important because it's already changed its name once, then you can start the project. And what happens with LLCs is they can easily put up a veil and evaporate, and next thing you know, the landowner's holding this.
They change hands 4 times before it's decommissioned, 5 times.
They're gonna be responsible, and if they walk away from it, the towns are responsible, so there are laws in place, and we're also looking at some.
oh, right here. It's in the inducement agreement, 3.04, the company shall not permit the standard will at its own expense take all steps reasonably necessary to remove or bond the same if applicable to the agency and its counsel, any mechanics or other liens against the project, and so on and so forth. But that should probably be, does that need to be in the contract too, that we require bonding?
I would strongly recommend that, that's probably the
I think
best
that's a
part of
good
that
idea.
law.
I think that's a good idea.
Because if they've got good intentions, they'll be all for it.
I think that's a good idea.
Just make sure we're covered for
Right.
decommission,
That's great.
Right.
one way or another, yeah, just verify that, okay? Good. Anything else on those?
I got one more thing.
Yeah, please go.
Another thing that's interesting in the law is, and I don't know if that's in here, I'm sorry, that, I was too busy reading the law, but one of the other things is, the law requires baseline soil sampling, which may not be in here, so what you do is, what happens if, you've got the baseline, and then you know the difference, obviously, what a baseline is, and then,
It's a good idea too.
that's how it's documented. So if anything leaks, if there's any issues, if there's any contamination to the water table, if there's always, God forbid, anything happens with that, at least you've got that in
You have a
place.
baseline.
Right, and you're protecting really the land, you're protecting everybody.
Yeah.
So,
I think that makes sense.
So that's something we could put in the contract too, that a baseline water sample is required
Water and soil.
Water.
We should
by an
follow up on
independent
projects.
party.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
And I'm
very
looking to see who those independent parties are, I'll have some information on that.
And we could recommend Cornell.
Oh, good.
Well, there's a lot of testing agencies not far away from here that you could do it. They're all independent. You can just fairly recommend it. So you can stamp it. So you cover it. So, because I don't know what Cornell would charge, which is other ones. You don't want the cheapest, of course. You want something.
Yeah, someone's familiar with that.
And there's places down there.
That should be That should be at their cost too. So,
Well, that's what, it also spells that out.
So, Brian, it occurs to me, especially for new people like me or it may be a good idea at some point to create a checklist of the things that we should be looking in these agreements and discussing for each case, right? So that we go against that checklist.
Like standard terms and
Yeah,
conditions.
just a simple
what we want to
checklist.
talk to our
Should it be a
attorney about, is to
baseline?
say,
Should it
How
be
do you
a?
create like standard, because again, we're talking about water samples and different things like that. That should be for any pilot project. If we're gonna let somebody put something in the ground or do work on the ground, like, because I thought about the solar fields up behind A&J. I was up walking up there this past winter just to see what it was all about. And there's all kinds of trailers and portage on, so there's all kinds of different ways to contaminate the property up there if you think about it, right? So I think it's a good suggestion. Maybe we can figure
Maybe
out.
there's one created already that we can.
Maybe,
Yeah,
pull
I'll check
from.
into it and see.
what are the types of things we would want to protect the municipalities, the communities, right, to build them into all of our pilots? It's a good question.
Well, that'd be the same thing with the checklist. We had it set up for so much for this megawatt, this much megawatt, all that, picking the sizes. If you'd have that already as a standard.
Yeah.
And you could just use that, based off that, make it hold up the court line.
And it helps us with due diligence when we're checking an agreement. I use checklists for everything.
good, all good stuff. Good conversation. Anything else? No? Good. Sal, the floor is yours.
Okay. Just an executive update quickly. Some of the town supervisors have already heard this because I use the same document as I go through. I'll update this every month, so it's consistent wherever we talk about what we're doing. I'll start with it. I just remind you guys that Jenna Ostrander has taken over responsibility for all economic development. So the DCC, the IDA, they're all related and they're all here to spur economic development in the county. She's going to take on a lot of those activities. Barb has transitioned into office manager and executive assistant supporting all of us. So she does a lot of work to help all of us stay on task here. Some of the things that we're all working on as a team, but they are being driven primarily by Jenna and her work in that workforce development area are the job fair. I told you guys before, we were working with BOCES to create one job fair. Martha gave us some connections on March 23rd. They were going to do a job fair that we support there, and it's a traditional format that they've used. It's too logistically difficult, so we're going to back up and do a hiring of that in May. And we're going to hold it at the Norwich High School. We're going to invite all of the county high schools, and it's going to be centered, instead of on all of the various careers that are available to people throughout the county, we're going to focus on needs of businesses with openings immediately. So it's May, people are going to be graduating, people are going to need summer jobs. We're going to invite DPWs, we're going to invite contractors, we're going to invite all the traditional employers that have openings. So we'll work together with our employers to say, if you have a job opening, come here. We're going to get as many kids that need jobs graduating high school through there in May, and then we'll hopefully open it up, work with CDO Workforce. We've been in contact with them in Oneonta to let adults go through in the afternoon. So we pivoted a little bit from the one because we can't quite fit the BOCES model, and I don't want to disrupt it. Route 12 STEAM initiative is something that's being driven by John Hillis down in Oxford. We continue, Jenna continues to support that. There's a roundtable discussion. That's around how to get kids more skills in order to enter the workforce better prepared, and specifically to the types of needs in our area. Jenna's made good progress on a shadowing opportunity. Unfortunately, it's not with the intended recipient. We were working with Raymond to set up what we would have called a job shadowing or a internship program with Jan, a welding supervisor up at BOCES that Martha introduced us to. We now understand the terminology that we use for an internship is not what businesses use. We have to talk about job shadowing in order to get businesses interested because the curriculum's too extensive to allow them to leave for a traditional internship. We're working with Raymond. There's not as much traction as we like, but we do have traction with Unison. They also need welders. So they're coming in here next week to try to set up a job shadowing program. So we're going to keep pushing on it. We're going to get one at Cary Bio. We'll crack Raymond too. It's just because they're owned by Toyota, the code's a little more difficult and that the decisions are a little farther up the ladder. But she's making good progress. Educate the educators. We're making progress there as well. You guys, I don't know if everybody knows, Eric Scrivener, he's in the back. He's the city planner for the city of Norwich. His wife is also the local county coordinator for BOCES for all of our area guidance counselors. She set up a meeting for me on March 18th. We're going to present the concept of bringing businesses into BOCES. They're very open about this, bringing it in over the summer to bring all the area guidance counselors or school counselors together and talk about what types of skill sets, what types of attributes our businesses are looking for, so they can talk to kids about it. Hopefully making job fairs and hiring events more effective, because you're talking to kids about what businesses are looking for. The DRI project, we're having a kickoff here tonight about that. We're trying to get all the project leads together to give a brief update on where they're at. Most of the projects have heard back from their city leads. This is, remember, a reimbursement program, so people have to put the money up. They then will get reimbursed if they adhere to those things that the state requires. We are going to get together with people tonight to make sure they're thinking about this holistically rather than 9 individual projects. I would like to see how we're going to tie this together. Eric and I have met with BID, Tracy Chago from the Business Improvement District. We think we have to think about what do we want this to look like 5 years from now when all of these projects are executed, and how do we get there? There's companies out there that can help you think about that vision and put a tactical plan together as to how to get there. We're going to see a little bit of a demonstration from a company tonight that knows how to do that, because we're fortunate to have somebody who lives locally and works for one. We're not suggesting that that's the company we go with. We're suggesting there are ways to think about this rather than 9 individual projects, to think about it as a holistic project to really revitalize the county seat. Coco June, I was telling Pete and Jeff about this, and I meant this is a really cool thing down in Green. I think you guys know Sunrise Farms, the Evans dairy up there where they produce yogurt. These gentlemen are from New York City. They've been producing coconut-based yogurt up at Sunrise. They've now consumed so much of the production schedule that the Evanses are leasing them property in Green, where they are building at least $8 to $10 million factory that Shane Butler and I have visited now a couple times. They're going to hire 30 to 50 people. We're going to hold the job fair there in March to try to help them identify a workforce. And it all started because of a cooperative effort, because these guys couldn't get co-packers that do yogurt to work with them because their production runs were too small. So they ended up here working up with these guys because they could handle smaller runs. Coco June is the name of the company. They're in Whole Foods, they're in Wegmans. We've tried the product. It's really good, and it fits that whole vegan thing. So it's a cool story, and they've done it with all private funding. My question. So we're down there trying to help. I was telling Pete Raymond that they've actually spent their own money to tap into the city sewer lines because they're on a dead end street. It literally has a mud parking lot. There's no infrastructure to help them get there. I mean, these guys are doing a lot of work on their own, and now we got heads up from a bank about trying to help them, and they're interested in loans. They're interested in things like that. They have the funding to complete this. We're just trying to figure out how to make sure they do it and be successful.
What about that investment?
That's what I called you. So we're trying to turn these guys on to. They have investors. What they're trying to figure out is how to get cheap money from people. So the $250,000, we're hooking them up today with tomorrow, with Bud Sweet to try to figure out how to hook them up with Strida loans. And there's all kinds of different ways of trying. But if it's other investors too, that's why I asked for that electronically to figure out how to help these guys. They're solid. They're young. They're extremely professional. The head of operations is his partner's from Kraft, so he has tradition in setting up plants and stuff like that. Be a cool opportunity for the county. And the other one that Jenna's working on, I want to bring to you guys is EcoStrat grant. EcoStrat is a company that goes out and rates areas, counties, for their capabilities to deliver biodiverse fuels. And so biodiverse fuels are made from cow manure. They're made from tree waste. They're from places like Bailey's. They're made from food waste from like farms and things like that. I don't profess to have a huge knowledge of that, but this area was deemed as a feasible area to possess what they call appropriate mass to create fuel. They have to do an assessment of that. It's an expensive assessment. EcoStrat is the company that does the assessment, and they're a company that's helping us apply for a grant. So that if we can get the grant, they will do a rating of Chenango County to say, this area is an A+ rating to deliver these types of fuels. And they'll tell you which types of fuels are available are most likely to be produced here. They rate your infrastructure. They rate the mass that you have, the likelihood that you could be successful. And then what they do is they go out to companies out there where they have literally billions of dollars in grant money for companies to set up these biodiverse producing companies. I'm not sure what it will ever lead to. If there's no harm in going out and getting the rating and finding out whether or not we do qualify for somebody to make those types of investments.
So piggybacking on that, I've been asked to sign a letter of support on behalf of the Chenango County IDA. I did not want to do that without full approval from the board
Thank you, Brad.
to
Could I,
sign that letter.
could I ask, what is the job impact if this endeavor were to,
It would depend on what the ratings are. Might be none, Martha. If they come back and say you get a D rating and because you don't have the infrastructure, we don't have a working railroad, we don't have, I don't know what they might say. So then the job that we create would be none. But the good news is we would have no investment in this because the grant pays for the rating. So,
no, understood, but the outcome, if it was positive,
yeah, okay.
brilliant, what would be the outcome in terms of jobs?
Again, it would depend on, if they said to us, you can produce billions of gallons of this diverse fuel, then who knows, we might be able to attract somebody to build a huge plant in Chenango. It's literally depends on the rating itself. So that's exactly what we want to do. In order to give a determination on what kind of opportunities are here, there are companies like Shell, there are huge companies out there that are looking for places to produce alternative fuels. We're just, there's all kinds of questions. Is it the kind of plant we would want here? What kind of fuels do they produce? Where would it be? Those are all questions I don't know until we understand, is Chenango County a viable place for this type of industry? I'm just trying to understand, again, what types of industry can we attract to Chenango County and whether or not this is a viable one that we would want to attract. I don't know. So we do this
It'd be a
study.
good question to ask our producers of some of the product. Chobani, all their waste product goes to the landfill.
Exactly right.
Here, and you could use that, because that would produce methane. And the same thing would be some of the larger farmers that we have around here, the real large farms. They may want to be involved, because it'd be a resource for them to sell versus just spread on the soils, but I don't know how it would work for maintaining their crops and stuff without having that materials to be spread on the land.
And there's a big leap from identifying what could be marketable than finding someone who's gonna actually be able to do the job.
Exactly.
Like, for example, Bailey's actually burns their sawdust in order to heat their kilns, so they're already doing that, but to get in a company, I mean, it's possible, that we can make pellets or something, but that's a big leap, so trying to figure out the number of jobs. My question that leading up to that, are they energy consultants? Are they engineers that come in, or?
This EcoStrat,
Yeah.
EcoStrat is the people that provide the ratings to attract the businesses. So EcoStrat is a company that says they've been certified by whatever government agencies say, this company can tell you whether they have this capabilities to tell you whether this is kind of like somebody that would do a bond rating for a bank. It comes in and it looks at the bank and says, this bond has an A+ rating, right? That's what these guys do. EcoStrat says Chenango County has the capability to do this, and it's with these, it might not be wood, it might not be waste, it might not be manure from farmers. They'll come in and say, here's what the county could produce at these levels, and then they'll say, here's the attractiveness of it for other businesses. So you're right, we're a long ways. I can't even think about what kind of businesses I would try to attract until I get a rating to say Chenango County can support this type of fuel development. All I'm asking the IDA to do is say, wouldn't we want to know if somebody thinks we could, that's why they reached out to us and said, hey, your area has been identified as a potential area for biodiverse optimization, I think it's called business. So it's biodiverse, I can't think of what the other one is, energy production. And they sat down, gave us a presentation and said, here's what we're looking for, Sal. Do you have the appropriate mass? I mean, they don't use that word. I can't think of the right word that they use to feed production to create an alternative fuel. And I said, okay, what would it be? Things like manure, things like tree waste, things like okay, I don't know. Do you have the infrastructure then, if you have the waste, to deliver it so that a company could produce fuel and then get it out of here? And I said, I don't know what that is. Well, that's what we do. How much is that grant? It's literally, It's 200 grand to do the study. EchoStrat pays for half because they're the company that does it, and they help us get a grant for the other half. So we put up no money.
Okay, that was the only reason why I'm asking the question, because ARC has a new grant that covers feasibility studies.
Yeah, it costs us $25 to apply for this, I think, Jenna. To apply for this study, it costs us 25. If the grant comes back and if we don't get the grant, we don't do anything else. If we get the grant, we do the study, and it says there's no ability to develop, or it's the kind of thing that would make the life here poor, we would diminish the life of Chenango County, we don't have to do it. We just simply have to say, what's our appetite and what's the capability to do it?
So
That's all it really
all
is.
we're doing today is approving, seeking the grant.
Correct. Yeah, they
Trying to
need
get the
letters
grant.
of support for the grant.
They want to know, the people that provide the grant, the government is the one that's going to give us the grant. They want to know that the municipalities think this is a good idea to explore. That's what they
State
want.
grant?
Yeah, it's a state
Not
grant. Actually, no, it might be, it's a federal grant, Mike.
It's
It's a federal grant, excuse me, it's a federal grant. I apologize.
I'll make a, I guess, yeah. I'll-
Do you want me to read the letter of support to you that's already been?
Yeah.
Drawn up?
Sure.
It says, I am writing this letter of support today for Commerce Shenango FY 2023 Rural Business Development Grant Application. Our company, CCIDA, we have been working with these organizing partners and are exploring the effects on our small business that a BDO zone designation would facilitate. We anticipate the increased demand for woody biomass from new operations in the region as a result of the ongoing effort, and will create and/or support local jobs within our company. The end.
Pretty generic, right? I mean,
So moved to accept that one.
Need a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond, aye.
Ryan, aye?
Zero.
Give it a,
Gloria?
thank you guys. Next page, I won't read you the IDA stuff, you all know about it. The tourism board, we've convened the board. I've talked to you guys a few times about what I think are the opportunities here to celebrate our natural resources, and I quote natural because I include natural as anything we don't have to build. I use this all the time. The fact that, we have Brigham Young was born in Smyrna and John Smith was born in Sherburne, and then they were pushed to Afton. We should be creating a historical trail, and I think we can market those things. The first step in that, as I've gone through this process, was I thought to catalog all of our natural resources and to start to create these trails. The more I've dug into it, it relates to the IDA's work as well. We really need to upgrade our digital capabilities. We need to upgrade our ability to market those assets before we can do any type of cataloging and getting people to come there. Jenna has met with her counterparts down in Binghamton, and it's a huge organization down there from both the IDA. They have one economic development group, so their LDC, their version of the DCC, and the IDA are all one type of group, and they talk about the various things that they do there in economic development and what they do, honestly, because Brandon, you brought it up around the income that we need to make sure we stay viable. They really market what their organization is capable of to other developers, to people that want to buy the South New Berlin School that called us up yesterday. And we need to be able to know how to do that as well, rather than, because I don't know how to go out and solicit those types of things effectively. And so we're meeting with you'll see this, some PR firms. So we've met with some people from different firms to help us with our website and to talk about more digital marketing to create tourism. For instance, I'll use this as just another example. When Oneonta is filled during the summertime with tens of thousands of people playing baseball, how many batting cages can those families go to? We should be inundating them with impressions, not billboards, while they're on their phones about how to get down Route 23 and see all the things that they can hit in Chenango County along the way. In order to do that, we have to have better sites to direct them to. So it's a sequential thing, and we're working on something.
Historical tourism, it's interesting because we have a museum area, right?
Yes.
Have you worked with Chenango County Historical Society or the county historian on any of these?
Henry's the guy who, the whole.
I mean, those are two organizations that are ready to put that, at least maybe put a plan together and give you the real history. So
They are.
I would include them for sure.
They're on our team, Mike, I'm sorry, I
Okay,
get excited,
that's right. I
I
didn't-
get excited because they're the guys who helped me with the idea. Henry Drexler helped us with a bunch of artwork, he came in here, I wanna tap into him because I think our historical resources are what, and he's the one who made me think beyond just what I called our natural resources and to include a more broad definition. John Antonowitz was in here last week. That's the place where I'd like to get an intern for, Mike, and start to catalog those. They're the ones that would know the majority of the history. And I don't mean like the first dentist office that opened. Where are all the historical sites, right? And how do I plot that? And could we work together to get an intern? Because I don't have to wait to get the website, to then get the tourism impressions set up, to then get the things cataloged. I can do these things concurrently, right? So you're right. There's
Well, I just want to give a shout out to the museum district because it's impressive and it already exists, so you're not the reinvent.
I won't, and I won't let them
Places,
forget, because I think that they're important to us as
One of the
well.
places you should check with is all too, just, you might already know this, but New York State DOT is responsible for the historic plaques all along the roads and stuff. They're the ones responsible for maintaining those and having them put up. So they would give you the sites throughout all of Chenango County where those plaques and stuff are.
I'll follow up on it again, because that's what we first started with him on, Randy, was a project that he wants us to help him get a grant, because nobody's taking care of it.
But DOT is responsible there, because when I was still active with the Boy Scouts,
I'm gonna
and
tell
stuff,
them
we used to work with the Boy Scouts with for an eco project or for other projects. We'd do things like that. They would repair and fix and clean and all that, but working with DOT, Mike Schwartz at the time was our regional engineer down here, or district engineer. He's the one that said, you don't have to do that because we're responsible by the state law to maintain those.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, so they're responsible.
I'm gonna
for it.
talk to him. I'll quickly, I'll go through the rest. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but I did meet last night with the Agricultural Society at the county fair. We talked about the Taste of Chenango, and they love that idea. A Taste of Chenango, a celebration of all things local, having a farmer's market in the morning, some type of, display with the animals are there, so young people can walk through there, do some type of a celebrity cooking contest. We've talked to Chobani about being the primary sponsor for that. The fair, Mary Weidman and the fair board was very, very supportive of that idea. So I think we're going to continue to move forward with that. You guys can see the rest there. We're going to do a relocation guide. We haven't done that in a couple of years. I want to do both a printed and then a digital version of that. It's important that we have a strong membership. So I put that on there for you guys because the strong membership, means that we don't have to have as much support all the time from our county partners and stuff. So our membership is a place that we're really focused on. We're going to work hard to create more value there. We're going to work hard to try to retain and get back some of our members. On a positive note, you guys know we're searching for a long-term, permanent solution to our membership director. In the short term, Lou Dick, and I don't know if you guys know Lou, but used to be Lou Fama. She worked for Penny Saver. She worked for Golden Artist Colors for the last several years. She used to work for the chamber. She's agreed to come back and work with us for part-time, 16 to 20 hours a week as a membership director and program director for us. She has great experience in creating events. She has great knowledge of what members want to talk about and how to get them to talk about the things that bring value. So I'm excited to have her join us. For those of you that know her, she'll be a great asset. Those are the kinds of things we're working on. There's lots of different projects that we're focused on, which we're trying not to boil the ocean, but we do have a lot of things we can get involved in. Anybody have any questions?
Good. Thanks, Sal.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. Moving on to old business, UTEP and IDA property update.
In your packet is the UTEP, the corrections that I made and whatnot. So I guess as long as you guys are okay with it, we can adopt that today and get it done off my plate.
Do we need a motion for that, Barb, or, because it's
I
a
would
requirement,
say so.
right?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
you do.
Motion, yes,
Okay.
To
yep.
approve these, yeah.
So I need a motion to accept Barb's revised copy of the UTEP.
So moved.
Second.
Good. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond,
Ryan, I.
Zero I.
Good.
Correct.
You guys should know that satisfies all the requirements for that audit, Brian. Everything is completely now been adjusted.
far as the properties go, the Earl B. Clark sale, we received the $60,000. And as far as I know, we're all set with that. Finally.
It may not sound like a lot, but that was a lot a couple weeks ago, huh,
Right.
Brian? There was a lot of emails going back and forth.
Yeah, and then the 537 Scott Street, apparently that is all set. They were gonna overnight me the funds. I haven't received it yet, so I'm hoping today. I'll reach out to them if I don't receive it. She said, the lawyer said that they were gonna send it Monday, but whatever. So as far as I know, we are all set with both of those properties.
Well, okay. So I will reach out to our insurance company and let them know that both those properties have been liquidated so that we can get them off our policy.
Yeah.
And that closing's fully happened now at 5 to 7, right? We're just waiting for the check.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. We're still holding part of the property out at Earl B. Clark. Right?
We do?
It's a lease to buy situation,
Okay, oh, yeah.
lease to own.
So you still have to.
Yeah, we're gonna do,
Oh.
I assume everybody wants to maintain coverage on that property.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, until they're fully,
And I don't think that costs us much because it's listed basically as fair land. So, okay,
well,
good. New IDA legislation.
yeah,
Yeah, you'll see that, it just comes
it's
right
in
after
your
that.
packet as well.
That's piece we
and,
voted on. And I think, Ron, the purpose of this is exactly what we were just talking about before when we were discussing the pilots. It's because in the past, as Steve was emphasizing, the school got all the benefits, municipalities didn't have transparency for the impacts of the agreements, and I believe that's what this law is attempting to address.
It's really to create transparency across all agencies affected by a pilot.
Yeah.
So, for instance, that North Norwich project potentially being 1,100 acres, you could be talking potentially 2 or 3 different school districts, depending on which way it goes and which way they're going. This requires full reporting of all documentation to the school districts, the municipalities, ahead of schedule. It does right now state that it has to be done by a certified mail with return receipt. However, I just received a school board magazine in the mail, and it looks like that's going to change a little bit. Apparently at their next voting session, who knows when that is or whatever. They are also going to include email as a way to send that as well. So in my guesstimation, what you'd want to do is save the email or a red receipt with the email as well. But really what it comes down to, and things we've been doing, right? So we've already been including school districts and townships in our discussions, but this just, it's another level so that they're aware of what's going on. That's it. It's one of those things we got no choice with. How's that?
Pretty much.
That one actually kind of makes sense though, right?
Do we have any reason to go into executive session or anything? No, good. Need a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
So moved.
It'll
Second.
it.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond,
Ryan, we know I.
Given.
Sorry.
Bird and I.
The task, I guess.
All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Sal, very good.
Thank you, Brian.
So, not an executive session thing or anything, but next month is our annual meeting.